Welcome. This is David Bowles, Human Meme. Today's topic, you are not gifted. Now, I'm a big Malcolm Gladwell fan. If you check out bowlesblogs.com and do a search for Malcolm Gladwell, you'll find the bliss of my abyss. In a recent podcast of his, Malcolm Gladwell examined the efficacy of timed tests, especially the LSAT or the LSAT, or AKA, also known as the test you have to take to get into a law school. In his podcast, Malcolm argued that it makes no sense to offer a timed test for a profession, the law profession, that requires thoughtful, extended, quiet moments of contemplation. And Malcolm Gladwell is invincibly smart, and I admire him for knowing that the law is not fast and loud or even precise. But the LSAT test is just that. The LSAT test is testing just the opposite of what should be important in testing. The LSAT values quickness over thinking. So the LSAT is creating a hierarchy of people based on the opposite qualities you would actually want in a practicing attorney. Sort of odd, right? But that's the modern method of the lack of the life in the law. And my human meme friend, that Malcolm Gladwell argument reminds me of a time when I was in junior high school. And in case you don't know, junior high is sort of like middle school. It's grades 7, 8, and 9. And I was being tested to see if I qualified to be in the gifted program. I was in the 7th grade. Now, I've told this story many times before. In print, on the radio, on podcasts, and even in a play I wrote for the live stage and then shot for television 33 years ago. And that show is called The Weeping Water Cafe, starring Devin Schumacher and Jim Hanna. You can read right now the Weeping Water Cafe script on bowls.com. Go to the scripts page, it's right there. And you can also watch both the stage version and the television version of the Weeping Water Cafe on my Vimeo video channel. And even so, with all of that, I am now going to share that gifted story once again with you right now. So some background. The gifted test for school kids in Lincoln, Nebraska, in the late 1970s, consisted of a series of timed questions you had to answer. And there were great benefits to being labeled gifted in that Lincoln public schools system. You could take other, more fun classes that were less structured and more intuitive and intelligent. And you had the label that you were special, gifted, and smart. You were sometimes excused from your formal class schedule to go on field trips for the gifted. You got a lot more attention from the school and from your teachers. And it was sort of a big thing to be accepted into this exclusive gifted program club. And the underbelly of the underside of not being in the gifted program meant that you were not really meant for anything in the school system's view. You were not meant for anything higher than a factory job at the local Goodyear plant, spending your days and nights forming rubber radiator hoses and stamping out engine timing belts. So on my gifted test day, there was a proctor in the room during the exam giving me the test, evaluating my performance, scoring my performance under pressure. It's not a great way to test genius, let alone being gifted, but that's the way it was then. and as it is now with the LSAT. And on the day of my exam, I did not know I was going to be tested. A woman just showed up, pulled me out of class. I guess they didn't want any anticipation or studying or prep time. They wanted to surprise you on your feet as part of the test, I guess, to see if you were gifted with moving and thinking without any notice at all. And that day, my gifted test was given to me in what was really a large janitor's closet with cleaning chemicals and smelly mops surrounding me. The test wasn't particularly hard, but if you gave a straight answer, it appears you got fewer points than if you gave a wildly creative answer. But I was never really good at figuring things like that out. I was not a good test taker. I preferred to concentrate on performance over wishful thinking and critical performance. And at the end of the test, I was told by the proctor that I indeed was not gifted. In fact, I had missed being gifted by 1 point. And right now, I can still see the ugly face of that proctor telling me 1 point. 1 point in that sickly, sweet, Midwestern marm way that embodied both pity and condescension. For the want of a nail, give me that point, a point of mercy to be held and cherished for the rest of my academic career. But no. And as I left the janitor's closet, I was crushed as I felt my entire life flashing before my eyes. All my accomplishments, my many firsts, were wiped out just by missing that 1 point. And many of my friends, my older friends, were already in the gifted program, and that meant I wouldn't be joining them because I was almost gifted, but not quite gifted enough to participate in all the extra goings-on with the gifted label attached to my permanent file. And as I went back to class, I felt terrible, and I was in dismay. I didn't know now if I was gifted or not. I thought I had been before the test. I didn't know, in the eyes of the world beyond the janitor's closet, what was happening or what was being thought. But somewhere inside, I also knew I knew other things. I knew things other students, even gifted students, did not know. But in the lifeblood of Robin Mickle Junior High School, I was now a factory worker and not college material. And I was allowed to believe that until my senior year in high school. My mother, an elementary school teacher in the same Lincoln public schools system, years later said about me failing the gifted test, "Well, if not for that experience, then you'd never have that speech in that Weeping Water play." Well, heartbreak doesn't quite work that way. Just like my mother always likes to say, she was so hard on me growing up to make me a better person. But it doesn't quite work that way either. Oh, what a better man I would have been if she'd just been a little bit kinder to me. Well, after I graduated from junior high, middle school, and attended Northeast High School, it's about 5 years, 7th grade to 12th grade, I did not take any sort of challenging class or advanced placement courses. I took the easiest path I could to get a good grade and get out of there. I had no plans to attend college. Why bother with the hard stuff? And then, in the last semester of my senior year, my mother found out that I had not been taking any sort of college prep classes, and she had a fit and she called my school counselor, and I was pushed into applying for colleges. I was accepted by the University of Southern California because of my work in radio, television, movies, and the live stage. But I was told by my mother that I could not attend USC because it was too expensive. And so I settled for my safety school, the University of Nebraska, Lincoln, because staying home was cheaper. And remember my friend, Devin Schumacher? I mentioned him as the star of the Weeping Water Cafe. He also had the same experience with his testing in the gifted program in the Lincoln Public Schools. And even though he was a separate school and a little bit younger than me, he, too, missed being in the gifted program by 1 point. Another 1 point miss for the want of another nail. And I ask you, my human meme friend, how is it possible that two smart, lovely kids, Devin and the host of this human meme podcast, were both crushed by the same hammer? And yes, Devin too was bothered and hurt by his 1 point elimination scheme from the gifted program. And he shared precisely the same grievances and wants that I have shared with you today. And I can tell you this, it was worse to be officially labeled not gifted than to be never tested at all. Not being tested and not being subjected to the whimsy of the person proctoring the gifted exam. It meant you could still steal away in your thoughts and be as brilliant and as centered as you wished. But having the official cudgel of not gifted come down hard on your head was absolutely a future killer in the Lincoln Public Schools. You were labeled and done. And I confess I am both pleased and surprised that so many good people relate more to my "you are not gifted" story than anything else I've ever shared. And I think they relate because they've been there too. They have been unfairly tested and labeled and put aside. They've been rendered asunder by a system born and invented to keep them down and to hold them in place. And it doesn't have to be a gifted test. It can be anything in the world that is put upon you and set against you to dampen your will. And nobody likes that. That sort of thing makes children bitter, and it makes the adult brittle. And it so much does not have to be that way. So let me say this to you. You who may have felt unfairly taken under by circumstances you did not invent or construct. You don't have to be a label. You don't have to be where you're from. Those around us, the others, who are marked special and who are labeled more than adequate, already have their champions marked out in the system. Their lives are set in easy, capitulated moments with no danger of failing or of finding any sort of risk to the spirit. They have been meticulously set up by the system from birth to find success because they test well, or because they have family money, or because they come from powerful parents. And for the rest of us, those who struggle against the tide, and those of us that the rest of the world will not hesitate to call not something, instead of what we really are, must carry on together. And I want you to know that it will be okay. I want you to know there are other people, just like you in this world, who know secrets and who have dreams, and who are better and smarter than anyone else in the world could ever imagine. It takes talent to recognize talent. It takes a certain kind of genius to recognize a certain kind of genius in others. So don't listen to other people who just want to break you and who want to take you down. Let them try. Let them try, and you will politely refuse their labels. And you will turn down their disingenuous offer of non-help. And you will happily decline their offer to live in the box they plan to put you in for the rest of your life. And you will and you shall persevere. And going forward alone, or hand in hand with others just like you will find success. You are your own champion. You recognize your own genius. And I know you would not want it any other way. 1 point short, 10 points short, 100,000 points short. None of that adds up to dedication of purpose, in the belief of your own vision into the world. Create your own label, but you must do it with actions and deeds and accomplishments. It is not enough to just say who you are. You have to prove it every day with things that cannot be taken away from you once you have them. Education, divinity, and love. Be the example. Become the action. Win back that one missing point. Be the point that everyone else misses. Thank you for listening. Be a human meme.